And pleased just to introduce our next speaker. We have former President Toomas Ilves of Estonia, who's going to be talking to us about sustainable infrastructure. In recognition of his development to improving the lives of Estonians and sharing his knowledge with the international community, Columbia presented him with the 2017 John Jay Award for Distinguished Professional Achievement. He's also been named a world leader in artificial intelligence and international cybersecurity at the 3rd annual Global Cybersecurity Day held at Harvard in 2017. So it's a great honor and a privilege to have former President Ilves of Estonia. Thank you, sir.
To start, it says unable to start video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, so I think we're going to need our host to turn on President Ilves's video.
It's not a video though, it's just my background. I just have
yeah, I wouldn't worry about the video. There we go. Oh, perfect. Great. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much.
How much time do I have?
Let's see. You have 25 minutes.
That's a long time. Okay.
Well, hopefully we'll come up with lots of questions at the end.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, basically, I would start out with this saying that the whole issue, I mean, the term blockchain, I really hate. I just say distributed ledger is much better because as soon as you say something that begins with the B and is about blockchain, people think Bitcoin and all of the, I mean, almost everything written or talked about when it comes to distributed ledgers has to do with money. But in fact, the real, I mean, I think where it's been underused or not used at all is actually in the realm of governance and public services. The world has been, ever since digitization really went into high gear, especially in Europe, but elsewhere as well, the primary concern has been over privacy. And privacy is when someone can see, say, my bank, or someone sees or publishes my blood type or my bank account, then that's all can be very embarrassing. Data integrity, however, is something that has not been any real attention paid to it. Yet that is if someone changes the record of my blood type. So if my medical record says I'm O, or but I need blood and I get AB instead. If someone publishes my bank account, that's embarrassing probably because it's so small. But on the other hand, if someone changes my my bank account, it's unlikely to be in the positive direction. Now, since my country undertook a massive digitization project beginning in 2001, where we basically have all but 3 services you cannot perform digitally, and those are or in other words, you have to show up physically to get married, to get divorced, and to have a transfer of real property. And this has to do with knowing who's buying property, which is, you know, I mean, we don't allow, we have not allowed anonymous shell companies to buy property, something that was, I guess, banned in the United States with the defense budget about 4 weeks ago. But before that, you could. So now allowed all kinds of interesting people to buy all kinds of property through anonymous shell companies. But since everything else was digital, we basically all our data, court records, healthcare records, property records, everything is digital. And of course, we realize that there's a fundamental danger with that, and that is that, in fact, if you go digital only, data integrity becomes a fundamental concern. And they, in fact, if you think about it, okay, obvious are property records and healthcare records, but even if all of your laws are published only digitally, and also all your court records are published digitally, what happens if you go back and change a law? I mean, someone decides to go change a law, or someone goes and changes the records of some court proceedings. And so we went beginning in 2007, but really fully in 2008, to putting everything on a keyless signature distributed ledger. And this was something that, well, we completed it fairly quickly, and we've been doing it ever since then. And I would say that when I do talk about digitization of public and government services, then where everyone always raises their hand and say, but what about privacy? I go, well, we deal with privacy through other means, but the real problem is the issue of data integrity. And public service, the data integrity of the data in public services and in government services is become increasingly clear, and few governments have really tried to deal with this. So, I mean, I shouldn't go that far. I mean, for example, when it comes to supply chain integrity, the US Defense Department is highly interested in ensuring that what goes into the F-35 is the supply chain that has gone in there, that everything works. Now that we're amidst this COVID issue, we've already seen the issue crop up with imported vaccines that are not necessarily always working, or that they're counterfeit. And this, of course, can have life and death consequences throughout. I mean, we actually already saw the problem with respirators and with various forms of equipment that suddenly came into high demand as a result of the COVID pandemic. Now, where we are today is that there's some real issues that are coming up that need to be dealt with, and can only be dealt with through maintaining data integrity. I'll give you a couple of examples. I mean, I guess the best one would be, we need to have or we already do have, vaccination certificates. Right now, people aren't traveling much. It has not become a problem, but as we see the more people get vaccinated, the first thing they want to do, obviously, is travel. And how do you know if the person who is coming into your country is vaccinated or not? Here in Europe, there are severe restrictions in many countries, including my own, about people entering the country. So when you enter many countries in Europe, you have to prove that you have been tested. I guess that's not as crucial an issue yet, because I mean, it's unlikely people will go counterfeiting that. But with vaccinations, you really need to be careful as to are people coming in, if they're vaccinated or not. Now, this, as in all cases, has very little to do with technology. The technology is all there. There are competing companies that have come up with this, but the problem of dealing with blockchain and how you set the system up so that countries can exchange data following the very strict, both European and indeed within Europe, national laws on data privacy or access to any data, becomes a huge problem. And it is slowly being resolved, unfortunately, much more slowly than the vaccines are being distributed. And I would say that what we're facing today is that, which we often face, is the tech is ahead of the legal system. The medical solutions are ahead of the legal system or the policy system. But neither the tech nor the medicine is actually going to have the desired effects together, at least for traveling, simply because the legal system is way behind. And this is, it's a single case of a very broad problem. People all know about blockchain, but, or they all know about Bitcoin, but in terms of data integrity, what we are faced with is a complete lack of understanding on the part of lawmakers and policymakers. Yet more and more, all kinds of certificates of, well, in this case, health, but whatever it is, will have to go on blockchain. And this is a political problem that we face within the European Union. We'll face it with transatlantic data. I mean, because it is so easy to fake things, that what I would say we need today is a full throttle education program for policymakers and for parliaments and governments around the world, or at least in countries that use that want to be involved in this kind of venture. It is the weakest link for moving ahead, even with finding solutions to the problems that come out of the pandemic, because we are not going to get to people traveling around, moving from place to place until we have people vaccinated, but they're going to have to prove they're vaccinated. So the solutions that now exist, I know there is, my own country has developed, the company in my own country has developed a vaccine certificate and is now working with the World Health Organization on it. That's how much I know about that. And my other hat, and where I was in a meeting before this, is that I'm on the WHO Innovation Technology Working Group on the pandemic. And it has become clear that no one has a clue about what this stuff is. And while, say, some of the IT people obviously know what's going on, it has become clear that the policymakers do not even know this is a problem. How do we do this? How are we going to do this so people can, first of all, travel within the European Union, where, while we have the Schengen agreement, you can move without a passport in between most of the countries of the EU, but that has been shut down now temporarily for the pandemic. People do want to travel, but they will increasingly be asked to show that they are vaccinated in order to enter a country. That's the first tier. What do we start doing when we start taking people from other places? When someone comes from the United States, okay, maybe we can work out an agreement with the United States if the United States also figures out how to create a distributed ledger system to prove that someone has been vaccinated. What do we then do with Kyrgyzstan, or I don't know, some other country where the technological infrastructure is it's kind of primitive? And also the question is, do we trust their data? If they say that someone is vaccinated, is it really trustworthy? I mean, this becomes a problem with a number of countries with far weaker regulatory systems than we have within the European Union or that you have in the United States. So, I mean, we will see, I predict that that we will go ever more in government services for all kinds of proofs of things that you need over to blockchain. It is slowly happening, but where the stumbling block comes in, as I said, is that governments have not enacted policies that at all have taken into account this new technology. Or if they have, then as we know, then it's almost exclusively tied to central banks, which are moving slowly. But outside of the financial sector, we're dealing with a huge amount of ignorance. And so I would certainly think that one task, which is fundamentally educational, needs to be pursued by various organizations, such as the GBBC, to in fact say to governments, look, this is the way data is going anyway, and the systems are going to be blockchain based, and if you don't move on this, we will simply be left out. And if you're left out, that means you can't travel, or you're gonna have a lot of angry citizens who can't travel because a certificate is too easy to forge, and people do them anyway. But when we get to this, it's of such importance and to public health that that we need to have something that one can trust. And in order to accomplish that, we have to have laws changed and policies changed. I mean, that's more or less where I would leave it. Simply, I mean, it's a single slice of a problem that cuts across all fields in which government data needs to be verified and needs to be trustworthy. Especially as governments go more and more over to digital data as opposed to paper data, because we will simply be, we will need it. So I would leave it with that, simply because it's kind of the drum that I bang all the time, is that, look, it's not just the private sector that where people can do all kinds of wonderful things in banking. It is actually applies, the more and more digitized we get, it applies to virtually everything that used to be regulated by governments, been worked on paper, but now in this intermediate phase between, you know, I mean, back in the old days, you had to have an apostille to have which is a document, sometimes, you know, with a wax seal on it, to say that it's, you know, a certified translator has said this document is real, and then you have this paper. Once you go over digital, we don't have apostilles anymore, but we don't have any real proof that it's legitimate data. But we have, and so we need to develop a system for achieving that, which we do not yet have. Until we get governments to understand and implement policies and regulations and mechanisms for dealing with blockchain. Thank you.